The minerals inside phones, cars, and fighter jets almost all pass through one country. Guess which one? China. China controls 60% of global rare earth mineral production and processes nearly 90% of the world's rare earth magnets. Critical minerals are this century's defining supply chain vulnerability. Dr. Gracelin Baskaran joins us now to break down China's chokehold and how the West can respond. Dr. Baskaran is the founding director of the Critical Mineral Security Program at CSIS. She has spent more than a decade on the front lines of this issues, starting in South Africa's Platinum Belt. She is a mining economist, a Georgetown professor, and the author of the US Policy Playbook on critical minerals. Dr. Gracelin Baskaran, great to have you with us. Thanks so much. And let's just get straight into it. I'm sure we'll kind of get more into the critical minerals, the rare earth minerals throughout this discussion. I know a lot of our listeners are already familiar with them. But one stat that stood out to me the most when thinking about talking to you was that 2 decades ago, China held 50% of sintered permanent magnet production. And today that share is 94%. So they've doubled that. How has that been allowed to happen? How did China become so dominant? Why did others let it?
You know, there's a saying that it's not a problem until it's a problem. And that's kind of the approach we took to rare earths and magnets, which means that over time, the United States and our Western allies, we realized that China could do it cheaper. And part of why they could do it cheaper was they were willing to use subsidized capital from the state. They built cheap coal-fired power to be able to do it. And they developed the engineers at scale to be able to do that. And over time, a lot of our technical capabilities from the US and our allies actually shifted over to China. So China both expanded its manufacturing at a time when other countries pulled theirs back.
But would it be true to say then that this is a manufacturing issue rather than the question of where the mineral deposits are, and that the West could make up ground, but it's got a lot of work to do?
You know, it's a both problem, actually. So China's dominance came from a 2-part strategy. One was to secure rare earths from around the world, whether it was in Africa or Latin America, or until early last year, even from California. And then it paired that aggressive kind of foreign policy with an aggressive domestic industrial strategy. That domestic industrial strategy was building the processing capability so that no matter where the rare earths came from, they had one place to be processed, China. And then they also built the permanent magnet manufacturing and the end goods, right? The development of the BYD industry was where a lot of those rare earths and permanent magnets went. So what we're looking at when we look at creating an ex-China supply chain is a 2-part challenge. One is developing new mineral assets and ensuring that those offtake agreements are signed to Western companies. The second part of it is building the processing capabilities and the manufacturing capabilities. And that's the current challenge that we have, is it's not an overnight industry. So while we have invested billions of dollars now of state capital into supporting the development of nascent facilities, it does take a few years to bring these online.